Yo, what's good? So, Muhammad Ali has many iconic images. He is perhaps the most photogenic fighter of all time. Not perhaps. I'm going to say he is the most photogenic fighter of all time. And perhaps the most iconic image of Muhammad Ali is the one of him standing over Sonny Liston in their rematch when he knocked him out in the first round in that fight that many thought was fixed, including me. I think that fight was paid off by the mob, but that's just a personal opinion of mine. This was also his first fight as Muhammad Ali, as a Muslim. But that might be the most iconic image. But I think the most impactful image in terms of the visual aspect of in terms of the imagery is the cover of Esquire magazine, where they have him with his hands tied behind his back, standing up, looking up, and have several arrows through his body, one in his leg, a few in his chest, one in his stomach. And we got to understand this picture, we got to understand the times, right? 1967, civil rights era, dead in the middle of the civil rights era. Malcolm X had just got killed 2 years ago by the Nation of Islam, by the way. But Muhammad Ali had come out as a Muslim 2 years, no, 3 years prior to this, and the Nation of Islam preached black empowerment, preached black power, preached freedom, preached separation of the state. They didn't want integration. They wanted separation because they didn't want to tolerate this violence that was being done against them. They didn't want to do the peaceful protest that Martin Luther King was doing, that other civil rights leader was doing. And they were getting condemned because of that. And they were condemning other civil rights leaders because of it. Malcolm X would openly call Martin Luther King and Uncle Tom. And I think that's a little crazy to think about now. Martin Luther King as an Uncle Tom? No. But that's the way it was back then. A hostile time. People were going to Vietnam. People were getting drafted. And that's the reason they came up with this image. Carl Fisher, the photographer for Esquire magazine, came up with this cover because he wanted to paint Ali as a martyr. The media received the news of Muhammad Ali refusing to go to Vietnam very negative. As Muhammad Ali put it, I ain't got a problem with no Viet Cong. I've made videos about this, right? He said, no Viet Cong ever called me a nigger. And that's very, very true. Elijah Muhammad he was a draft dodger back in the 1940s as well. He did some prison time for that. So he was following in his footsteps at that time. And 1968, the April issue of Esquire magazine, Carl Fisher painted Muhammad Ali as a martyr. And what other martyr was there but Saint Sebastian? Yes, Saint Sebastian, a 3rd century Christian who got killed by the Roman Empire because of his religion. And he saw a lot of similarities between the way the government of the United States was treating Muhammad Ali and the way the government of Rome treated Saint Sebastian. In Saint Sebastian's case, he got murdered because of his belief, and Ali was basically getting crucified. And I think this was a much more powerful image than if he was simply did the Machiavelli cover of him getting crucified on the cross, because this was a lot less known. And if you see the painting from the Renaissance of Saint Sebastian, it is almost identical to this picture. Saint Sebastian is tied to a tree. He does have his hands behind his back. He is standing straight up, looking up, and he has the arrow in his leg, a few arrows in his chest, and the arrow in his stomach. So it's almost identical. He does have that dark background. So the painters of the Renaissance wanted this to look like a solemn day that Saint Sebastian was getting killed. That something bad, something really negative to humankind happened to this day. As with the cover of Muhammad Ali, it's just the white beige type of color in the background, and it says the Passion of Muhammad Ali by his feet. And I think this for Carl Fisher was to emphasize and focus on Muhammad Ali. Yes, he's presenting him as a martyr, but it's focusing on the man himself. It's focusing on the facial expression, on how the man is feeling. And this way, you don't get caught up in the martyrdom, but his message, because on the bottom it says the Passion of Muhammad Ali. And I'm sure in the pages inside, you hear about his passion. His passion is Islam. His passion is standing up for what he believes in. And Muhammad Ali was the athlete, the ultimate athlete who stood for something. He never had a sponsor. He didn't get sponsored by Nike, Adidas, or anything like that, man. He stood for black empowerment. He stood for Islam, for religious freedom, just like Saint Sebastian. And to me, both of these images embody really religious persecution of their time and persecution of the people by the government. So very powerful image. And I think in terms of just the image itself, this is Muhammad Ali's most impactful image. Thanks everybody for watching, and please subscribe. You guys have a great day.